Alrighty. So yesterday we did Ruach Ish Yichalkel Machalehu V'Ruach Nechea Miyasana. So literally translated, the spirit of a person sustains his illness, but all the English translations translated as sustains him in his illness. So we wanted to kind of try to avoid that in order to get it most literal possible. And then V'Ruach Nechea Miyasana, and a broken spirit who can lift it, who can raise it up. So our questions were, what's this contrast between a spirit and a broken spirit? Spirit makes it sound like a regular person's spirit, not like any sort of like superlative quality spirit. And then broken is like, is a negative quality. So is the first half talking about like a good spirit, or is it just like a regular spirit? Like what is the thing binary? Like either your spirit is normal or broken, or is there like a broken, normal, and like good or something like that, like we would expect to find. 2, why can't anyone bear a broken spirit or lift up a broken spirit? And then a question on style, like why is it phrased as a rhetorical question? 3, what is ruach? That's the major question here. 4, what does mechalkel mean? What does it mean to sustain? 5, how does the spirit of a person sustain? What does it mean to sustain? 6, what is a machla here? 7, what does it mean to be mechalkel machalehu? 8, what is being sustained in the first half? Is it the person being sustained or his illness? 9, what is the subject and what are the two opposites? 10, who is the audience? 11, a lot of questions here. David Melech in Tehillim says that a broken spirit is a good thing. So is that just a different usage of the term broken spirit, or like, is it sometimes a good thing? And 12, what are you supposed to do if you have a broken spirit, if you can't lift it? It sounds like you're saying you can't do anything. I think we just reviewed.
I have one question to add.
Yeah.
Would that be a good question? But why does it add Ruach Ish? Why not just Ruach?
Yeah. Okay, good.
Not just to Ruach Nechea.
Yeah, that's a good question. Right. Ish. Yeah. All right, good. Yeah, let's, I'm going to add that here. Why does it specify Ruach Ish? Okay, so the plan, Isaac, today is to not abandon our approach from yesterday, but to set it aside and just start afresh with a new approach. So here are some fundamental questions. So I think what I want to do is I just want to read through all of these because they're all similar in some ways. Let me just display this on the screen. Just to get like a feeling of the approach that they take, and then we'll figure out what we like and what we don't like here. Okay, hold on a second here. I always forget if I switch. Did you, Ezra, are you seeing a new source sheet now with just Rביnu Yona on the top? No. Okay, fine. Yeah, I always forget whether when you switch within multiple windows in one program. Yeah. Okay, so let's do Rביnu Yona. I actually found 2 Rביnu Yona commentaries. This is a commentary on Mishlei, and then the Al Torah footnotes took me to Rביnu Yona and Shari Tשובה, which is a thing just to be aware of. He does this in Avos a lot, right?
Yeah, so much.
Yeah, it's like, I guess Shari Tשובה, I guess, was his main work, or he writes a lot more in that than he does in his other places. So sometimes it pays to like look in both places. What is Shari Tשובה? Anyone know the legend of Shari Tשובה? No. Okay, so in the anti-Maimonidean wars of the end of the Rambam's life, and then like the period after his death, there were, as Rabbi Zucker likes to say, rational Maimonideans and irrational Maimonideans, and then rational anti-Maimonideans and irrational anti-Maimonideans. So one of the biggest opponents of the Rambam was Rביnu Yona, I forgot on what grounds he objected. I think it was hashkafa grounds, not on like Mishnah Torah, codification grounds. So he was very anti the Rambam, but then he did tshuva, and he went to the Rambam's grave with 10 people and asked for forgiveness from the Rambam. And the legend is that Shari Tשובה was written like drawing upon that experience. So I don't know whether that legend, I don't know what scholars say about that legend, but yeah, that's the legend.
To be clear.
Yeah.
The Rביnu Yona doing tshuva, everything Rambam is not a legend.
Yeah, that's factual. Well, factually, he did tshuva and he argued with Rambam, right. But whether it's connected to Shari Tשובה or not, I think is. I don't think he like writes that in Shari Tשובה. Yeah.
And what is the book Shari Tשובה?
It's about tshuva and how to do it. and it's not like the Rambam's style, like Hilchos Tשוba. It's much more, what would be analogous to?
Like
a lot of like members of Chazal and explaining them, and like categories of sins and severity. I don't remember if he goes into metaphysics in terms of like Olam Haba and stuff, at least not in depth. I've only really learned parts of it, I think.
That's an independent state for the Rבינו wrote.
Yeah.
I did not know that he
I thought he was only a commentator.
Yeah.
What was it?
I thought he was only a commentator on things.
Yeah, he wrote a sefer. Yeah.
Wow.
He actually wrote another sefer also. I think it's called either Sefer Hayira or Sod Hayira or something like that. Which in some editions, I only know about that because in some editions of Shari Tshuva they print that also, and that's like a short treatise. It's not like a long thing. Yeah. So you get a sampling here.
Wow, this like it almost feels like finding out that Rashi wrote a sefer.
Yeah, it is true.
That would be crazy.
Yeah. Okay. Ruach ha'adam yisbol choli guf. Indian Shemar. Okay, so the spirit of a person will bear the illness of the body. Okay. So here we're talking about physical illness, and your spirit will bear or tolerate it. Okay, Shnemar, Lev Sameach Yetiv Geha. Okay, so this is another pasuk which look down at the Me'iri for a second. I quote the pasuk in full there. Lev Sameach Yetiv Geha, V'ruach Nechei Tiyabish Garim. This is a weird one. So this came earlier in Mishlei, last chapter. The heart of a person, Lev Sameach, a happy heart, Yetiv Geha, will improve a, what is Geha? It's a weird word. Hold on, I gotta look it up. I'm just blanking on it. It's an obscure term that has, I think it's an anatomical term. Really? The same pasuk you mean, or the word? Because it's a very...
The word.
Really? Yeah, I'd be...
I think it was in the diet one, maybe.
Oh, that could very well be. All right, let's see. Yetiv Geha, what pasuk is this? This is 22. Let's see here. 22. Yetiv Geha is looking on Al HaTorah. I know this is not being shared on the screen, but whatever. Oh, how odd. It only appears in this pasuk. Okay, that's why I don't know what it is. Healing or cure. Okay, so I think they translate it as, let me actually just look at the Al HaTorah translation here while I'm here. I'm not gonna look at all the translations, but what pasuk did you say, 22? A merry heart is a good medicine, okay, or a good healing. I guess it's a synonym for refuah. But a broken spirit dries the bones. Okay, so that's a pasuk that is, I mean, there's a lot of the meforshim quote that pasuk here. So Rבינו is saying that is like a that is related to this, and I believe Rבינו, I should have actually copied this and pasted it here, but I think Rbinu's shot on that is basically like that there is such a thing as like psychosomatic, or I don't know if that's the proper term to use. Your psyche can actually affect your physical body and your health. Okay, like if you have if you have like a good attitude, that can actually like help healing, and if you have a bad attitude, then that can actually like exacerbate illness.
Which is not totally false.
No, it's not, right? And in fact,
It's actually, like, totally true.
it's more true, I think, now than they thought, than like we used to think like 50 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like very.
I mean, like the placebo effect, like actually like generates healing, you know, like you tell me, you've probably heard your mom quote this more than I've heard your mom quote this, but like I heard it first from her. The craziest placebo thing ever, or that I've heard, is I guess there's some sort of like, I think it was a knee condition that like the conventional wisdom was that you needed surgery. Okay, so they did an experiment where they had people get the surgery, and they had a video feed where they can like, they were put under local anesthetic so they could watch the surgery being done. Okay, so there's the group that actually got the surgery, and then there's a group that just had a placebo operation and watched a video of the surgery being done. and it was some crazy percentage of the people who just had the placebo surgery that healed. You know,
It's like a double-blind study kind of.
I don't remember what the conditions were. I remember when this was done. Like, I feel like, you know, you hear certain experiments and you're like, is that unethical? You know, like it feels like that should be unethical, but I don't really know what the rules are there. Yeah. Anyway, so that is reality. Yeah. You never heard that? Okay, I'm pretty sure I heard it from your mom, but okay. So then he says, "V'ruach v'gomer." Okay, kasher tidag haruach v'te'aneach. When a person's spirit has anxiety, so here he's learning spirit as psyche, right? When it worries, v'te'aneach and groans, mi yanachemenu v'yazrenu. Who can comfort it and help it? Miloshen Yisa Besichi Mishkavi. I'm not familiar with that pasuk in Yov. Ki haruach tanachim v'tisbol choli haguf, because the spirit comforts. It's a weird word to use nachama here. Comforts and tolerates, or like bears the sickness of the body. Ach haguf lo yinachem es haruach, but the body cannot comfort the spirit micholia from its illness. V'hi hadaga, and what is its illness? Worry. Okay. Uvala hazir min hadaga, and this is coming to warn you against worry or anxiety. Shelo yashli tena adam al nafsho, not that a person shouldn't let it dominate his soul. Aval yishtado livtoch b'Hashem yisrael ulhishayim belokach. He throws in bitachon at the end. Rather, you should trust in God and rely on his God. Yeah. Okay, so that's his first approach, which is just to review the answers to the questions here. So ruach is spirit. Machala is the machala is worry, and he's tying it to the thing of that this could actually make you sick, and he's saying that this is another commentary on the relationship between the ruach and the body, which is that if your ruach is not good, it's going to make your body worse, and no one can help it. But if your body's sick, then your ruach can help your body. Yeah. Now let's see in Shari Tshuva. I forgot if this is the same or different. He says, "V'chein yasim b'makom Yisurim." I don't know what the context of this is. Tzomos v'tainyos v'horadas demaos umnias nafsho min hatanugim k'mosh nemar birkai kashlu mitzom uvasari kachash mishamin v'nemar shuvu adai b'chol levavchem uv'tzom b'v'chi uv'v'misped. Okay, I don't know what this is. Here's the part that we need. The anchu tamid b'merus libo. You should groan constantly out of bitterness of the heart. K'mosh zacharnu b'shar harishon min hatshuva, like we explained in the first gate of Tshuva. V'yasim ribui hamariros b'mukom ha'yisurim, and ribui mariru should be in place of the afflictions. I don't know what that is. Now here's this pshat. Commotion Amar, as it says, Ruach ishichacha machlehu ruach nechem yisa, and a perush. Kasher yechla haguf, when the body becomes sick, hanefesh tisbol cholio, the soul. Interesting. He replaces the term here, ruach with nefesh. The nefesh can tolerate its illness. Milashon umi mechalkel as yom bo'o. Who can sustain the day when it comes? Klomar tazor laguf. V'tisad ehu, it can help the body and support it. Kasher tadaber al libo, when it speaks to your heart, utanachamenu l'kabel v'lisbol, and comforts it to receive and to bear. Aval kasher hanefesh chola u'nechea min hayagon v'adaga, but when the soul is sick and broken from sorrow and worry, mi yanachim hanefesh, who can comfort the nefesh? Umi yisbol v'yisad osa, and who can comfort the soul and tolerate and support it. Hine ki hadaga umrirus halev yichabdu micholi haguf. Daga and mirirus halev are more severe than sicknesses of the body. Ki nefesh so edes haguf b'cholio, because the soul can support the body in its illness. Aval kisha hanefesh chola unechea miyagoneha lo yisaden haguf. But when the soul is sick, the body can't do anything. Yeah. So I think it's the same approach, right? It's just different words.
Why did you throw in Botach Hashem? It doesn't seem like.
Yeah, I feel like that maybe that came from a previous pasuk. Let me just check what was the previous pasuk? What was the one we did?
I will say that that's very reminiscent of his parish in Avos, where he'll be building a cogent idea and then throw in like a bonus point that. Completely unrelated.
Yeah.
And not tied to the thing.
Yeah,
although I think it's saying that I think maybe the point is that you shouldn't be worrying, but rather this is the replacement for worrying.
Yes, right. That's yeah, exactly. I think he might be getting it from pasuk 11. or sorry, 10. Migdal Oshem Hashem. Bo Yerad Stag Nizgav.
It reminded me of that.
Yeah. And I can't remember offhand whether he, so he definitely held that 11 was related because the tzaddik takes security in his wealth. Sorry, the Ashir takes security in his wealth.
Right.
Livnei Shever Gaon, he did not explain. And definitely doesn't have to do with the previous pasuk of Meishiv Davar B'Terem Yishma.
Oh.
That was responding preemptively. Yes, so it must be going like all the way back to that. That's my only guess because he darshans smuchim, but he also does it very loosely, you know. Okay. Next interpretation I wanted to do is actually not on the sheet, but because you have it there, is Metzudas David. Okay. I can't remember if this is the same or exactly the opposite. Let's see here. Where are we here?
Wait, are we reading his words when he says nefesh?
The Rבינו Yona?
Yeah.
I think he's using nefesh as a substitute for ruach here.
Okay.
Yeah,
As
which
psyche.
Yeah, it seems to be psyche. Yeah. Okay. In contrast to the Metzudas David, ruach sichli, right? So he says it is the spirit of the intellect, asher b'ish, which is in a person, yispol v'yachasik choli haguf. So it can tolerate and strengthen the sicknesses of the body. Okay, strengthen, I assume here means, okay, I'm not sure. Kihi manheges es haguf bibriuso, because it, the intellect, governs the body in its healing, okay, or in its health. V'af ki b'cholio, and even in its sickness. Aval kisha ruach atma nechea ushvura be'etzav v'yagon mi yisa'ena. But when the ruach, when the intellect itself is broken in affliction, or I guess in depression and sadness, who can lift it? Ki ein haguf nose osal hachazika im hi es haguf. Because the body cannot bear it and strengthen it, but rather it strengthens the body.
So that's the same as.
So same, but he's saying it's the ruach sichli, you know.
As opposed to the psyche.
Yeah. Now you can say that the Rבינו Yona means ruach sichli. The only reason I said not is because he uses the terms yagon and anacha and da'aga, which seem to be much more psychological things.
Sure.
Here he's saying the intellect, you know, which raises the question, like, what does the Metzudas David mean, you know? Okay. Let's put that on hold and just do two more, and then we'll figure out which aspects of this we like. So Me'iry is next. Share the screen here. Me'iry says, Me'iry? Yeah, Me'iry. Ruach ish yichalkel machalehu ruach nechea miyasena. Ze romans ma'at la'omro lev samech yetiv gehav ruach nechea tiabish garam. So it alludes a little bit to the pasuk from before. V'hu he'ar al hadoeg b'mashalo yuchal hasigo mikinyane ha'olam. Okay, different subject here. This is someone who's worried about what he cannot attain in the material acquisitions. He's waxing Koheles here. Ukamo sh'amar ha'chaver, as the chaver said. Now, I don't know if this is the chaver like the Kuzari chaver, or if this is just, you know, some friend of his. I don't know. Lo tideg al mashalo tuchal hasigo. Don't worry about what you can't attain. Okay. Ve'al zeh amar ruach ish, rotzeh lomar sichlo yichalkel v'yisbo machlas haguf. So regarding this, it says that the ruach of a person, namely his intellect, will sustain and bear the sickness of the body, v'yanhigehu b'da'ato, and govern it with his mind, and govern it with his mind in terms of what it needs from medicine and nutrition. But when the spirit is broken and worried about material acquisitions, who can bear it? That has no healing. So weird mixture of subjects here, right? He's saying on the one hand, it does have to do with physical sickness, but he's saying the opposite is either you're using your mind to deal with your physical sicknesses, or you're not using your mind in terms of drawing what material possessions you can and can't acquire, and that's making you depressed. I don't know why he like merges those two things.
I'm confused with it. I don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, I understand each half on its own, right? Like,
okay.
The first half is the same as the Metzudas David, is that you use your mind to heal your body. Okay. Second half is saying if you're worried if you have anxiety from trying to attain what is beyond your grasp, then that's going to, that can't be healed. But that has nothing to do with sickness, it sounds like, you know? Okay, last one, yeah.
It's reminiscent of the Hadas V'Shaim Yektiv.
That we did last night?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. You're right.
Yeah.
Skip the Derech Nisra. I only put that in because it has to do with what we said yesterday, but that we don't need that right now. And then the Rid says, Ruach ish yichalkal machalehu, timsa bnei adam shemachalkalim es chol yam v'sovlim osa. You'll find people who, I think here we have to translate it as like are sustained in their illness and tolerate it. V'ruach necheya miyisena, but who can lift a broken spirit? Aval mishi yesh lo ruach necheya v'nishberes v'atzava, but someone whose spirit is broken, shattered, and sad, shemesim atzava v'libo mikol davar, someone who makes himself afflicted about everything, okay? Almost like our complainer friend from pasuk 8, mi yisa'ena la'osa ruach, who can lift that spirit? Lo tuchal l'sovla, it will not be able to tolerate it, meaning it won't be able to tolerate the sickness. Ki mitoch tsar v'shivron sheyesh b'libo yamus. So he, because of the pain and breaking in his heart, he will die of his illness.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Joe was saying yesterday.
Yeah, right. Remind me, just remind me how you said it again.
No, it's what Joe was saying.
What you were saying?
Yeah.
I didn't fully develop it. I didn't say so much.
What did you say? I just want to try to jog my memory. Do you remember?
Yeah, I said that the ruach was the psyche, and that was binary.
Yeah.
It's either broken or there.
Yeah.
I don't remember what I said.
Okay. Fair enough. Okay, so now that all this is on the table here, okay, you feel like these are different, but like there's similarities here, compared to what we said yesterday. Like all of these have something to do with your some sort of like mental state affecting your physical health, whether it's mental state in terms of your intellect or your psyche. Has something to do with your physical health, except maybe the meiri second half. I'm not quite sure about that. Yeah. So what do you say? Anything appeal to you? I'm just going to share the whole screen so I don't have to keep switching back and forth. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if we say the second half is saying that like the healthy body, like, or the body, I guess, can't help fix the sickness of the psyche. So in a sense, doesn't it work the other way also, that like if you're whatever, like healthy, then you could be happier or something? Like sometimes people get depressed because they are whatever, not like whatever, they're just not healthy, I guess, and they're just like sad and feel bad about themselves and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You can kind of feel better about yourself if you're healthier.
So
in a sense that it could work the other way as well.
Right. So then that point is true. So that would cause us to then differentiate why the pasuk is putting the emphasis on what the body can't do for the ruach, right? Well, so that this question forces us to like narrow the focus of the pasuk. Yeah.
Right.
I have a question that's possibly a methodological error.
Okay.
Which is that it sounds like the implication of the pasuk is that like since it only goes one way, you should just focus on having like a better like ruach, because then you'll then that will heal your body too.
Mm-hmm.
But like that's just not true in terms of like how healing works. Like it helps, but it's not like that's not a true conclusion. Like because if let's say you are not doing things to like actually take care of your body, but you have like a great mentality other than that, that's not gonna help.
Right. Yeah. Unless you're talking though about the psychological suffering from the illness, in which case that's really all that matters.
Well, the healing, nothing but the grid.
Okay, right.
The other
Yeah, the other ones. Yeah, the actual healing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's I think why the Mitzudas David appeals to me, because he says that it's actually your seicha is manhig your guf bibriuso va'aki b'cholio, that you use your mind to take care of your health in your body. But when you notice something interesting that the Mitzudas David does is he says it's the ruach sichli, but then he also says when the ruach aval kisheharuach atma nechea ushvur be'etzev v'yagon, So he like it actually fits very well into what we call mental illness. When we say mental illness, we don't mean intellectual illness, right? What we mean is psychological illness that interferes with your ability to use your intellect correctly, you know? So like that's like a sweet spot of like having all the advantages that you're trying to avoid in the question that you just said of like, yeah, if you use your intellect to have best practices for your body, so then that will actually make you healthy and can actually cure your illnesses. But then when your intellect is deficient, because you're suffering from a mental illness from your psyche, so then you can't use that method because it's almost like the same problem we said before, because then the apparatus is defective. You know, like you can't think yourself out. I mean, this is debatable, but let's say like you suffer from clinical depression, you know, like you can't, that's not just a matter of like thinking yourself out of your depression. You know, there's like actual chemical imbalance, you know, like, and there's nothing that you can do about that with the intellect itself because it's compromised, you know? And that's where the question really would be. So then what's the practical, like, is the practical lesson we get from here is you're screwed? Like, you know, like Misa and like that's it, you know? I mean, maybe this is jumping the gun on the idea, but what I'm thinking about now just from that question is that like, I mean, this is, and maybe you can accuse me of being guilty about thinking about this in like modern medicine terms, but I think there is a critical mistake if you assume that a certain illness is rooted in the body versus if it's rooted in, or sorry, I shouldn't say it that way. If you have an illness, you think I'll say it? You want to say it?
I don't know if this is what you're trying to say or not, but I think there's definitely a certain mistake that happens a lot nowadays of focusing on treating like, I'd say, bodily symptoms when the cause is some sort of intellectual or psychological issue.
Yeah.
And then like because the problem never really gets fixed.
Yeah. So I'll give you an example, and then we could like define the categories. If someone is actually suffering from clinical depression, but you say that, oh, you just have to apply your mind to like figuring out how to make the best decisions to get on, you know, to like live your life effectively, that's a mistake. You know, that's trying to lift a broken spirit. You know, the only way to deal with that is, I mean, I don't know, this was maybe not relevant to him. The only way to deal with that is in a bodily way, is like taking care of the actual like, you know, causes of the illness. You know, it's not a problem in decision making. It's a problem in your your body, you know, and like where you draw the line obviously is like a matter of debate, you know, but like, but there are different solutions for different things. And like, if you try to solve something through, you know, like ruach sichli means, you know, that is actually a broken ruach, then that's not going to work.
I would like to say in the reverse.
Okay.
Which is when something like, when like the way to fix something is the ruach sichli or the whatever, like, you know, the psyche or the intellect, but you try to address it through the gut.
Right. So I don't think this is actually saying two different ideas. I think you're just focusing on the second half. I'm saying that the mistake is to put one category in the other.
You mean to put something in the wrong category?
Yeah, put something in the wrong category. Right. Yeah.
Okay. Because I was saying, let's say a person is very anxious about something.
Yeah.
That let's say there's not any real need to be anxious about.
Right.
Like, let's say they're anxious about an upcoming test that has like no bearing on their life whatsoever.
Yeah.
So, and then because of that, they're having, let's say, like acid reflux or something.
Yeah.
And so they're like, so then they go to the doctor to get a treatment for the reflux, when really the thing that they need a treatment for is their ruach.
Right.
And then as soon as they have that, then that'll feel physical.
Yeah, right. And I think that the meforshim are definitely inclined much more along those lines, because it's, the whole point, which again, in the time of Mishlei, I'm sure was an actual chiddush. Now, like, it's known that there's a relationship between, your mental health, or like your psyche and your physical health, but like people allocating problems purely to the realm of the physical, when really there's a lot more that your mind can do in terms of getting you through your illness than your actual than people actually think. And I think it layers well with, like, that's talking about where the ruach condition actually produces the malady, but I think people also discount the amount that your ruach can play, like the role that your ruach can play in alleviating your suffering from a different illness. Like, that's a whole genre of, like, inspirational videos of, like, people who are suffering from crippling, debilitating physical illnesses, but they're very happy and they're not suffering, and that is reality. And, like, people will just, like, condemn themselves to suffering because they have a physical illness, and not realizing that they can actually, like, alleviate their suffering by, depending on how they view it,
I guess that also gets into an interesting conversation about, like, the pain of it as opposed to the actual condition.
Right. Yeah, that we talked about in the Rבינו shiur at the end of last year that I gave, the Sunday shiur, right? Is that the psukim in the first two phrases in Rבינו Hashem Nerafeh Hoshim Nevashia, and then but I'm trying to remember what Kisi Lasenu. I think it was also Kisi Hilasi. I think is the pasuk that it comes from. Both of those, we assume that when we say it in tefillah that it's talking about healing us from physical illness. But if you look at the psukim, it's Yirmiyahu talking about his psychological afflictions. And so there, I wanted to suggest that, like, and we do later on ask God to heal us physically, but that the primary thing that really we're concerned about is the suffering from the illness, not the physical ailment itself, and that the suffering is a lot more in our control, by through our own mental framing of it, which tefillah is trying to do. Yeah.
Well, okay, that might have answered it, but I was going to ask if that's the thing that's more in our control.
Yeah.
Why are we asking God for that? Like, shouldn't we ask God for the thing that's less in our control?
Depends on how your old tefillah works.
Yeah, I guess.
That's
Right.
Let's step around that pond right now. So now, can we unify all these ideas, like these approaches, like, or are these, like, I feel like we had several different approaches here. It would be really nice if we could package it all under one parish of the pasuk, See, oh, sorry.
Are you including yesterday's? Or
No, not yesterday's. Just the ones for today. Another point, by the way, I think Yichalko Machalehu is a good ambiguity, because what it's saying is that it can sustain you in your illness, or it could sustain your illness.
I guess aren't those two ways of reading the pasuk?
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, it works out either way. It's like a good kind of ambiguity,
Say it was meant to be both.
Or it works out. Yeah.
Great stuff.
Yeah.
I wonder if you could just translate Yichalka as alleviate. What's the shortage of alleviate in English? It has to do with life? Because if so, then that actually is good for Mechalkel, like sustaining life. Let's see, alleviate. Etymology of it is related from alleviatus. Past participle of alleviare is to lift up or raise. Interesting. Miyasaina. Figuratively, to lighten a burden, comfort, or console. Oh, interesting. All right, fine. So it is related to, like, lift up or sustain.
What where did you find that word?
Where did I find the word?
Alleviate. Where was that word?
I just was thinking if there's a different way to translate Yichalkel that is not ambiguous. Yeah. I know we're trying to think about a thing. I also kind of want to read what I came up with over the summer,
Yeah.
see if it's the same or not. Let me open it up here. I think it was different. I think it was like radically different. Let's see. All right. So what we came up with the summer. So we translate, the spirit of man will sustain him in illness. I guess we went with that translation, but who can lift a broken spirit? So I said spirit in this context refers to psychic energy. It's interesting. Okay. When a person is sick and debilitated, he will be tempted to direct his energy towards his sickness, where it will only culminate in frustration and prolong a state of suffering, since there's nothing more he can do to change his condition. But if he acknowledges that there's nothing more that he can do and endeavors to go about life as normal within the limitations of his malady, then his spirit, the same spirit that he had all along, will sustain him in his illness. See if that makes sense. Because I think we were bothered by that question. Why does it just say ruach stam? Like, you know, yichalkel machalehu. So that implies the ruach, or ruach ish, you know, that just implies the ruach of a normal person will sustain him in his illness. And so I guess what we were trying to say is like if you keep, let's say you have a condition that is like either terminal or like chronic, but it's one that it's not just like a cold, you know, and maybe a cold also, but like you're stuck with this malady, you know. So there's a certain like wishing that you didn't have the illness. And a lot of your psychological energy just gets caught up in wishing, I wish I didn't have to suffer this, you know. But if you accept the fact, I think we actually got this from, we were inspired by the Metzudas, not the Metzudas, by the Me'iri, right? We didn't put it in terms of kinyanim, but when he was saying that, aval kasherucha nechaya v'doeges lekinyan ha'olam mi yisa'ena v'hu davar she'en lo refuah. And when he said also, sorry, that was the other phrase, lo tidag al mashalo tucha lahasigo. Don't worry about what you can't grasp. So we were bothered by the Me'iri, putting this in terms of material possessions, and we say, why not just apply it to like the pasuk itself? If you're sick and you can't heal it, so then if you just sit there and worry about it, that's going to cripple you. But if you go about it with the ruach ish, with just your normal like psyche, so then that will allow you to sustain your illness, you know? Like this was, now that I'm remembering this, there's a video of someone who I show a lot in my Koheles class, named Claire Wineland. So she was born with cystic fibrosis, and she was given, her parents were told that you're going to live, like your daughter's going to live till she's like 4. And then like she lived till she was like 7, and they was like, oh, she's going to die at 9. And then she lived to 9, they were like, oh, she's going to die at 12. So she like kept on going, and like the nature of cystic fibrosis is it only gets worse. And like she was in like breathing treatments for like 7 hours a day, and like but she managed to like basically have a career as like an inspirational speaker. And then she did die 2 years ago. But really good videos if you watch her on YouTube. So one of the things that one of her speeches at I think it was a TED Talk. No, it wasn't a TED Talk. It was a TED Talk style thing. Was she was in her hospital room when she was like in, you know, her early teens, and like she decided like, okay, I'm going to be stuck here for like several months. I'm going to decorate the room and make it into like a New York penthouse, you know? And so like she got her parents to like help her, and like she, you know, like basically just like decked out her room. And like that was a project that like made it feel like her home and stuff like that. And the speech is, I'm not going to spoil the speech, but the speech is basically about like, well, why don't people do that? You know? And like, I think it stems from this type of thing, which is that you become so fixated on just wishing that you didn't have the problem. And the whole message of her speech is like, everyone always comforts healthy people by saying like, at least you have your health. And people who are sick, they're like, you know, like you'll get past this. And she said, well, what if your whole life you live with a notion that you will never get better and it's only going to get worse? And if you resign yourself to that, she said the nature of cystic fibrosis is that the more you do, the longer you will live. And the less you do, the quicker you'll die. So she has this like whole life trajectory of this constant uphill battle, which would be very easy to just like give up, you know? So I think, I forgot if I thought of that after we came up with our idea in the summer, or if like that was like the impetus for the idea, but like that's what we wanted to say, is that if you're dealing with an illness that you cannot control, and let's say there's nothing that can be done, or you've done everything that you've already been able to do. So then just spinning your wheels, like thinking like like I wish I didn't have this, like that's just going to make the illness worse. Whereas if you just have a ruach ish, you just have your normal psychological disposition and just accept, okay, fine, I'm this height, I'm this nationality, I'm born at this time in history, and I have this illness. It's something I can't change. So if I just worry about it, that's just going to lock me into that dead end, and then that's just going to increase my suffering.
People do worry about those other things also.
Yeah, that other pasuk about that. Yeah. This is a good example, by the way. I forgot if I mentioned this in this shiur, but just good to remind ourselves of every once in a while that the standard proverb aims at delivering an idea on a silver platter, like as easy to absorb as possible. One of the things that Mishlei does is he gets you to think into a sugya. So in the process of trying to figure out what the pasuk is actually saying, you encounter lots and lots and lots of different aspects of the sugya that benefit you, even if those don't end up being like the ultimate shot. So like, let's say like here, we've all morning been talking about the relationship between the psyche and the mind and the body. And whatever we end up deciding on as the actual perush, we've touched upon a lot of true ideas and gotten a familiarity with that realm. The ordinary proverb doesn't do that. It just delivers the idea. You don't have to think about the subject at all, Yeah.
Yeah, I have like a specific association to that point.
Yeah.
Is, when we were talking about shochad mechek rasha yikach, lahatas orchos mishpat.
That's the one we did, right?
That's the one.
Or that's the one that you and I did. Okay, fine.
That's the one, yeah.
Okay.
It's not the one that we did here.
Yeah.
Because that is talking about the phenomenon of bribery.
Right.
And it's unclear who's being called in Russia and who and then a lot of the aspects where it was unclear who the pasuk is talking about.
Yeah.
So we talked about several different ways that it could be interpreted.
Yeah.
And by doing so, we've just got a much better understanding of how the phenomenon of bribery actually works.
Yeah. I would like to go to a new pasuk tomorrow, but I want to start tomorrow by trying to solidify our idea, just to see if we can get it clear, because I think this is a good state to just let it percolate for a while. I think these were good ideas.
Yeah.
Just a question of how to read the pasuk. Yeah. All right. Let's stop for today. There was by the way, another example. I forgot who was in